Hey everybody, it's Adam Farkas. Welcome to another edition of ODwire TV and part 2 of our conversation around Alcon's family of permanent water surface technology contact lenses. Now, if you've cracked open a copy of Tyler's Quarterly lately, you may or may not have noticed that these lenses represent their own category of lenses, like hydrogels or silicone hydrogels. So the 3 permanent water surface technologies are scientifically advanced and have some important characteristics and features. And today we're going to be talking about the 2 most recent additions to the permanent water surface technology family of lenses, PRECISION1 and TOTAL30. And so today we've decided to invite 2 clinical experts to talk to us a little bit about these lenses. Dr. Susan Resnick is a principal at Drs. Farkas, Cassillo, Resnick and Associates in New York, New York. Fitting contact lenses has been her primary focus throughout her career, and she served as an advisor to industry and as an investigator in the contact lens and pharmaceutical industries. And Dr. Michael Slusky is the president at Chicagoland Vision Consultants in Schaumburg, Illinois. In his practice, he also emphasizes cornea and contact lens management, and he too has worked closely with industry to help consult on the latest contact lens technologies. And just to remind everyone, this episode of ODwire TV is sponsored by Alcon, and both Drs. Resnick and Slusky are paid consultants for Alcon, and were compensated by Alcon for participating in this discussion today. And so Susan, Michael, thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us.
So in our first conversation about permanent water surface technology contact lenses, we talked about DAILIES TOTAL1. And today I wanted to continue that conversation by talking about the other lenses that are included in this unique category. And so that probably brings us to the sort of next lens in the family, PRECISION1. And I remember when PRECISION1 came out, people, when they first saw it, they didn't know what to make of it at first. This question mark came up over their heads, like, is this just another version of DAILIES TOTAL1 or is it something completely different? And of course now we know PRECISION1 is not DAILIES TOTAL1. It is different. And it uses different technology. Maybe, Susan, you could speak to us a little bit about how PRECISION1 is different technically from DAILIES TOTAL1.
So, as Michael said before, this isn't just new and, well, he didn't say it like this, but this isn't just new and improved Tide. It's not the same basic lens that, repackaged. It's a totally different lens, a totally different polymer. It's Verifelcon. And it is not, even though it's a permanent water surface contact lens technology, it's not a water gradient technology. It actually steps up from a low water content to a higher water content. But that being said, the step up is less of a step. So it goes from a 51% water at the core to a little more than 80% water at the surface. While it has a really nice cushion of moisture, it's about roughly half the thickness of the cushion of moisture of the DAILIES TOTAL1. But where does this fit in? And this is where, again, we as practitioners go, okay, we got all these lenses. How are we going to divide them up? We're going to flip a coin? No. So the purpose of this lens, or where it's sort of its niche, is that it is a lens that handles extraordinarily well. So it gives all of the features and attributes of a water surface technology. But for that novice wearer, or maybe patients are a little bit challenged in terms of handling, it is a lens that handles very well. And we all have a lot of patients. We have a lot of challenging patients. If we think about it, those are the ones we remember. But the majority of our patients probably aren't all so challenging. So what about those who don't really have those physical or physiological challenges, who just need a really good, comfortable lens that's easy to handle? And that's where I think the PRECISION1 comes in. So you've got the excellent vision and the excellent handling. And again, harking back to the Anna Sully study, where she looked at what encourages dropout, or what motivates people to drop out, if I can use that word. Oftentimes with new wearers, it's handling. So it's really critical that we don't have our patients being frustrated with the very first step of lens wear, which is inserting and removing the contact lens.
Right. And once they get past that first step, of course, this lens uses the smart surface technology, right? Which, again, is another one of the advanced surface technologies that we've been talking about. Maybe, Michael, you can speak to this technology and how it sort of fits in and compares to DAILIES TOTAL1.
The way that I see smart surface technology is, if DAILIES TOTAL1 is a gradient, I think of it as progressive spectacle lenses. You've got a progression going from distance into a near segment. Whereas the PRECISION1 with smart surface technology, it is a step up. So to me, that's a line bifocal. And friends, I'll tell you, There's a place for both of those in my practice. I have patients who wear aligned bifocal because of the specific needs that the optical design gives me. Same thing with progressive lenses.
I like to think of it as my workhorse lens. I mean, I know that word is used a lot, but that truly is what it is. And then for the patients that we discussed before that are more challenging, you can step it up from there. But this to me is a lens that meets the needs of most contact lens wearers.
Susan, I love what you said about that. I'm going to throw something out that you might identify with. There's an expression: if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Right?
That expression.
So, right? And I think that's great for a washing machine, maybe a dishwasher. But when patients come in and see me and I ask them that question, is there anything about your contact lenses that you wish could be better? And they may say, no, there's nothing. And I'm looking under the slit lamp and asking about their habits, how they wear their contact lenses. What I say to them is, if it ain't broken, enhance it. We enhance everything in our daily activities. We have new cell phones, we have new computers, we have new clothes. We don't continue to reuse or repurpose those things. And that's where I found that PRECISION1 has really worked well in my practice. And that's what I found patients are preferring compared to their habitual lenses. And I don't think that I did anything wrong in the years of past by giving them technology, but that was technology from them.
Right.
This is water surface technology. It's a great workhorse lens. It's my mainstream go-to.
Right. It's funny. I've got a teenager at home, and when I ask him how his day was, you know what you get? You always get the answer, it's fine. Right? My day was fine. And then they clam up. I kind of wonder, is it the same with contact lens patients where they will just tell you, it's fine. How do you actually probe a little deeper? Because as you guys know, it's not always fine, right? They're just not talking to you. They're not telling you. What is it that you can do to kind of tease this out of them to try to make their experience better, even when they're not necessarily being upfront and telling you?
That is true. And there are two main reasons that happens. One is that patients assume that this is just the way it has to be. And the other are afraid to tell you because they think if they're going to tell you something negative, you're going to tell them they can't wear their contact lenses. So that clinician has to keep in mind. So, and again, I alluded to this before. I first ask an open-ended question and I say, how are you doing, with your contact lenses? And I let them answer. And then if I get that, oh, great, which is, even at 35, my children still answer me with that. So it's not just teenagers. I ask closed questions, which is how many hours a day do you wear lenses? When do the lenses start to bug you, if at all? And how does your vision feel at 6 o'clock at night versus 1 o'clock in the afternoon? So I'll ask those three key questions. And from then I can tell, is there an issue or, what kind of changes do I have to make? But I'm like Michael, even if everything is great according to them, and even if it looks great, the only reason my patients come back to see me, it's not because I'm so charming, although people would suggest otherwise. It's because I'm constantly, I'll use the word, whetting their appetite for new technology. So I was probably talking about these lenses 6 months to a year before they even became available. Not that I have telepathy, but I'm always telling patients that research and development is an ongoing thing, and that these lenses are great. These are the kinds of things I was talking to you about last year. And so I kind of always harken back to the last visit because it's what motivates them to come back to see me. And it also is what engenders loyalty and referrals.
So, we've spoken about the disposable water surface lenses now. There is a third lens in this family, and it's a reusable lens, and it's called TOTAL30. And I think we should probably touch on it a little bit, right? Because it is unique in that it is reusable versus the other two. So maybe you could just step us through a little bit about what TOTAL30 is all about.
I have to say that I love this concept. And it's the most ironic thing to hear me say that I love this concept because I started out at about 50% single use in my practice. It was a long journey. Then got to 35, got to 55. Those were really, really big challenges. But something took off after 55. I got comfortable with it. I help my patients get comfortable with it. And, 8 out of 10 patients today I'm putting in single-use lenses. And I'm not saying that to boast. I'm saying that because I believe, and I found a way to make my patients believe. But that means that I have at least 2 out of 10 patients that are either not prepared to put on a single-use lens, or it is not in their budget. And those, friends, are truly my most valuable patients because they really do stand the highest risk of dropping out of contact lenses. And if I lose them, I've impacted their quality of life. That's important to me. So for years, since 2013, the concept has come up, well, what if there was a water surface technology and a reusable lens? And more importantly, why isn't there one? So it's here today. And the key thing I understand about TOTAL30 is, again, it is not a repurposed product. It's a material that was specifically designed to be able to be worn for more than one day. That means it has to have characteristics. Number one, it has to be compatible with solutions, which it is. Number two, the surface has to stay resistant to deposit formations, foreign particles, or even bacteria. And we're going to get into that, Adam. We're going to talk a little bit about that technology, Susan and I, and share with our colleagues what it is that makes it unique and why we've embraced this technology for our reusable wearers.
Just to build on what Michael says, this particular technology in the TOTAL30 is actually leveraged on the DAILIES TOTAL1 technology. This is a water gradient, much like that. The TOTAL30 is of a new polymer called Layfilcon A, and it actually has about 55% water at its core, and then it goes up to about 100% water at the surface. So this is a little bit more analogous to the DAILIES TOTAL1 than the PRECISION1. But to Michael's point, there's a few other features and benefits of this lens which specifically speak to the fact that we want this lens to feel as good on day 30 as it does on day 1.
Right. And speaking to that, so there's this technology built into it called Celligent, which you're not going to get in the other two lenses. Maybe, Susan, you could speak to that, what this is and how it works.
So this is, if we remember our ocular anatomy, we know that on the corneal surface is something called the glycocalyx, which is produced by the microvilli of the anterior cells on the cornea. And so what Alcon has done with their polymer technology is they've actually been able to mimic this glycocalyx using nanofibers within the polymer itself. So we can see here on the left, there's glycocalyx in the corneal surface, and it provides a gel-like layer of protection with the microvilli. Actually, it's a dynamic process. So these microvilli are kind of sweeping across the surface of the eye. And what the TOTAL30 is that with biomimetic properties, it actually allows the nanofibers in the material itself to achieve the same kind of dynamic function. And what this does is that it actually helps it to be resistant to lipids and bacteria. But on a chemical basis, it's a net neutral charge. And what that means is that large molecules that have, charges on them aren't going to stick to the surface. So there's the net neutrality in the chemistry that repels, plus this dynamic motion of the nanofibers. So this is, a very, very unique technology.
And Sue, also that has those nanofibers, MPC for short, that's got a proven track record.
That's actually used to line stents for cardiac procedures, and it repels some of the lipids that can build up in artery walls and everything. So it definitely is a very inert polymer, and it's very compatible with the natural physiology, of our bodies. So to have this in a lens where we want to look for that biomimetic property on the surface of the eye, is a great thing.
I think that's what made the difference for me, at least, is I was excited that we were using water gradient technology for our patients in a reusable platform. But I just found that really interesting that industry is creating a platform for us that's moving us closer and closer to space age, if you will, that you're mimicking the way the human body works. That's got to do something for me. So I like that.
And of course, Alcon has actually put the lens through its paces in vitro, sort of measuring its softness and lubricity and so forth. So before we talk about the experience on the patient's eye, maybe we could talk a little bit about what the lens has been like in the lab.
When Alcon looked at the material properties of the TOTAL30 lens, they looked at two key features of the material. And one is how soft the lens is, and the other is how lubricious or smooth the lens is. And the study showed that the TOTAL30 lens was at least 5 times softer in terms of its lens surface than other reusable lenses. And with respect to lubricity, there was a 3 times greater surface lubricity in this lens than in lenses in the reusable category as well.
What hits me with this is if I can have a contact lens polymer that could be as soft as possible, I'm going to ask my patient, what do you think? How does it feel in your eyes? And it all comes down to their response. If they say to me, I prefer it, it feels lighter, it feels like there's nothing in there, I think that's a very good foundation for the clinical rationale of why I would pick a polymer that has a lower modulus, that has a higher lubricity to it.
And Michael, you mentioned before that the majority of your patients are in daily disposable lenses, but of course there are always patients who will be using these monthly replacement lenses. I guess if we had to sort of picture, what does this patient look like that's going to wear a TOTAL30? Again, if you had to have like an archetype, who is this person and why do you fit them with TOTAL30? Who are they? What do they look like?
It's actually a patient that I just saw that I had transitioned into a maintenance-free single-use contact lens, also with water surface technology. And for one reason or another, this individual was not prepared to make that transition and had reached out to me and said, hey, is there something that I can do that's more like my lenses that I wore on a monthly basis? And I said, sure, let's get you back in the office. I have the technology and a water surface lens. We'll test those, see what you think about them, and move forward. So that is an ideal opportunity. But also, even preemptively, if you have patients that tell you at the time of the visit, or you may have some questions about how they're going to accept the lens, the time is here, the time is now. We have the technology to do it. Move forward with it.
And Susan, what about you? What does your typical TOTAL30 patient look like?
Yeah, so I'm going to add actually 3 things to that. So I'm just like Michael. So remember when I was talking about like the patients who come in and they're looking to change and they're very proactive? Well, I have another subset of patients who are the opposite, who love, how shall I say it, not to change. They're just very happy never making a change in terms of most things. And I don't fault them for that. And, I don't treat them any differently. To me, that's the ideal patient. And so I'm able to get them all the, physiological benefits, visual benefits, comfort benefits, health benefits of going into a TOTAL30 without their thinking that I've made a big change. But then I have 2 other categories of patients where these lenses come in great. I do have some very, very environmentally conscious patient, and they just don't want to be throwing lenses and blister packs away every day. Bingo. This lens is great. And then there are patients who just find the reusable, the monthly lenses. I'm not sure if it's real or it's imagined, just a little bit easier to handle. So I will, certainly concede. And I feel so much better now having this lens because now I don't feel like I'm compromising in this modality.
Right. You bring up an important point, actually, so that in the beginning, when there was just DAILIES TOTAL1 in 2013, you had this permanent, water surface lens, but that was the only one. And you just had a limited subset of patients that you started fitting with it. But now, as time has moved on, you now have basically a set of technologies that covers most people, right? A good proportion of all your patients. So there's a lot of options at your disposal that just weren't there before.
Exactly. It's just so nice to have choices. And what I love about these choices, you know why it's so hard to make it? Because they're all great. So it's not, it's a good problem to have as well.
And, we've spoken a lot about the patient's perspective on all this, but, from the clinician's perspective as well, these are useful products in terms of practice management, right? Because contact lens patients, obviously for both of you, right, they make up a bulk of what you do. So these are important products in your practice as well to see patients back every year.
So I was just wanted to make one other point with respect to that. I don't find these replacement schedules necessarily mutually exclusive. So I have, patients who 9 months out of the year will wear a monthly replacement lens. And then when they're traveling for the summer and more seasonal allergies, they'll go into a daily disposable replacement. So, and certainly, again, some patients like to have some of each.
I want to add one thing that I heard from a colleague that I want to give full credit to, Dr. Wilson out of Texas. I heard him say something phenomenal. He said, my job as your optometrist is to make sure you run out of your contact lenses on time. And that's really where I see this technology. When the person is enjoying when they're comfortable, they're going to use it. They're going to be more compliant to use it. And you're really tying them directly back into your practice. If you don't say to the patient at the end of the exam why you're doing this, you've lost it. So we as clinicians, we understand this technology, and some of it may be a bit wordy, but we understand why we're doing this. Here's a great opportunity for us to tell the patient, here's the reason why I'm giving you this lens. I'd like your feedback on it. Tie them into your practice.
We've been talking about what makes a contact lens successful for the patient. That's what we've been focusing on right now, both scientifically and clinically. But for your practice, from your perspective, what makes a contact lens successful for you?
So I look at really three things. The most important thing is the health and the happiness of my patient with respect to their contact lens wear. So the happiness would maybe go more to the emotional benefits, and that would be my emotional happiness as well as the patient. I always want both of us to be happy. We're each looking perhaps, well, we have most things in common, but I may be a little bit stricter. In terms of the clinical benefits, that's strictly up to me. That's looking at the vision, the corneal health, the quality of the tear film, and everything while the lens is on the eye, and then when the lens comes off of the eye. And then, certainly, the practice benefits, there are the tangible and the intangible. The intangible ones are really, what is my net promoter score with respect to that patient? In other words, is this patient an active promoter of my practice and what I've done for them? And I'm happy to say today was a good day. All my patients came in and brought their mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, and that's what I want to see. But at the same time, I look at the hard economics of it, and if the patient's happy, they're basically coming in, replacing their lenses with me at every visit, no questions asked, and we keep it very smooth and convenient for the patient. So, again, it's pretty much a three-prong differential as I look at product and patient experience.
Right.
This is, I want to chime in on what you said, the emotional component of it is, that's a big part of what we do as clinicians. It's trust. And I found this as an opportunity to just continue the trust I've been building with my patients. I love what you said about the emotion.
And sort of one final question I had for you. When you're speaking to patients about water surface technology, how can you sort of get it into a language that they will not just understand, but also relate to? Because obviously we have one audience here today that's listening to us, and we all sort of understand the science and everything that goes behind it. When you're speaking to the patients, what kind of language can you use to really make it relatable to them?
Some of the things I said today are a little bit more wordy, they're more technical. With a patient, I can get it as simple as possible. It's lids, tears, cornea. Then I put a piece of plastic inside, in between those. What if I could take that piece of plastic and try to cover it with as much water as possible so it feels more natural? And I want to see what you think about it. That's it. Is I tie my patients into, give me your opinion. Tell me what you prefer. That helps me to build on the clinical rationale of why I'm doing it. But to the patient, it's simple, and they're engaged. That's what makes it different for them.
A contact lens is a foreign body, and I don't want their eye to perceive anything as being foreign or unlikable. And I tell them that this lens, because of the amount of moisture on the surface, the eye perceives it as being just a little bit more water on the surface of the eye. The lids perceive it as being a nice, smooth surface.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you so much, both Susan and Michael, for being here today, giving us all, this great advice and all these little points that you can share with your patients as well. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks, Adam.
And if you haven't already tuned in to our first conversation on Alcon's permanent water surface technology contact lenses, check it out right here on ODwire. I'll include a link to the show in the comments.